in the quiet European city of Wallenbroek, where cobblestone streets curved like old memories and the river reflected centuries of untold stories, lived a young woman named Elara Whitmore. Elara was not famous. She was not loud. She was not the kind of person people noticed immediately. But she was known for one thing. She stayed. She stayed when projects became difficult. She stayed when relationships grew heavy. She stayed when hope faded and promises thinned. People called her loyal. They called her patient. They called her strong. And for a long time, Elara believed them. Elara worked at a well-known publishing house near the heart of Wallenbroek. It was the kind of place young dreamers longed to join, tall shelves filled with books, the smell of paper and ink, quiet offices humming with ideas. Elara loved words. She loved stories. She believed stories could save people. She poured her heart into her work. She edited manuscripts late into the evening, rewrote paragraphs that weren't even assigned to her, and helped struggling writers find their voice. Her manager, Mr. Hawthorne, often praised her dedication. "You're invaluable, Elara," he would say. "Just be patient. Your time will come." Those words became a refrain in her life. Years passed. Promotions went to others, people with louder voices, sharper elbows, and shorter patience. Elara's ideas appeared in meetings under different names. Her efforts were acknowledged privately, but never rewarded publicly. Still, she stayed, because leaving felt like failure. Outside of work, Elara's life looked full, but only on the surface. Her closest friend, Maris, had been part of her life since university. They once shared dreams of travel, creativity, and independence. But as years passed, Maris changed whom. Whenever Elara spoke about her ambitions, Maris smiled thinly. "Be realistic," she'd say. "People like us don't get fairy tale endings." When Elara felt overwhelmed, Maris dismissed her feelings. "You're too sensitive. You should be grateful." And so Elara learned to swallow her words, to laugh when it hurt, to minimize herself to keep the peace. She told herself this was maturity, that strong people endure, but every day something inside her grew quieter. One autumn evening, after another exhausting day at work, another meeting where her idea was praised under someone else's name, Elara walked through the old streets of Wallenbroek with heavy steps. The city was beautiful that night. Lanterns glowed softly. The river moved calmly beneath the ancient stone bridge. Elara stopped there, resting her hands on the cold railing. For the first time in years, she felt empty. Not angry, not sad, just tired. As she stood there, an elderly woman sat nearby, tossing crumbs to the birds. Her movements were slow, but her eyes were sharp and kind. "You've been standing there a long time," the woman said gently. Elara forced a smile. "I'm just thinking." The woman nodded. Thinking is dangerous when it turns into waiting. Elara laughed softly. "I'm patient," she replied. "I always have been." The woman looked at her closely. "No," she said. "You are exhausted from staying where your soul no longer fits." Those words struck Elara harder than any criticism ever had. That night, Elara lay awake in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling. The woman's words echoed in her mind. Am I patient or afraid? Am I loyal or just avoiding change? She thought about the years she had given, the dreams she had delayed, the version of herself that once believed life could be more. For the first time, Elara allowed herself to consider a terrifying thought. What if staying is what's hurting me? Tears came quietly, not from pain, but from clarity. The next morning, Elara walked into her office with trembling hands. She had written her resignation letter the night before. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't angry. It was honest. When she handed it to Mr. Hawthorne, he looked shocked. You're making a mistake, he said. Security matters, loyalty matters. Elara nodded. So does self-respect, she replied softly. Walking out of that building felt unreal. Fear wrapped around her chest, but beneath it was something she hadn't felt in years. Relief. Days later, she slowly distanced herself from Maris. No arguments, no accusations, just boundaries. The silence that followed was painful, but peaceful. The months after were not easy. Elara doubted herself constantly. There were mornings she wondered if she had ruined everything. Freelancing was uncertain. Rejection emails arrived often. Money was tight. There were nights she cried alone, questioning her decision. But something had changed. She no longer felt invisible. Every small success felt earned. Every challenge felt honest. She began writing again, not for approval, but for truth. Her words found readers online. One article was shared, then another. Slowly, her confidence returned, not loudly, not all at once, but steadily. 1 year later, Elara stood once more on the old bridge in Wallenbroek. The river flowed as it always had, steady, patient, free. She smiled. She had learned that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes courage looks like walking away quietly from places that no longer value you, from relationships that drain you, from versions of yourself built on fear. Elara understood now. Staying is not always strength. Leaving is not always weakness. Sometimes the bravest act of self-love is choosing yourself even when it's terrifying. And as she walked away from the bridge that evening, Elara knew she hadn't lost anything that mattered. She had finally found herself. True courage isn't about enduring pain endlessly. It's about knowing when to walk away and begin again.